The comic book has a fraught history with representations of women and marginalized characters. And the example that was held up in your documentary was that of Wonder Woman, created by William Moulton Marston, psychologist who develops her as, in some ways, empowering, and in many ways, a representation of ideas of bondage and subjugation of women. Wonder Woman is a character that's created and recreated in a very fraught relationship with identity and representations of women in comics. Sometimes Wonder Woman joins the fight against fascism with her lasso of truth, her telepathic tiara, her bulletproof bracelets, and brings empowering messages to women along the way. As she is here, helping women break out of bondage to, challenge oppressors. But so many of the messages associated with her, especially in these early ones, are very disturbing sexualized images about bondage and spanking. And remember, these are being made at a time when married couples on television, like on the Dick Van Dyke Show or the I Love Lucy show, are being shown in separate beds in their bedroom, because you wouldn't want something so provocative or titillating as a married couple in the same bed on television. So with that for context, what do these images do? What do they say? And female characters are often portrayed in these sexualized positions. It isn't just Wonder Woman. While violence is a staple of the comic book, no male heroes receive similar, highly symbolic and sexualized treatment. Thinking about this, though, as the documentary brought up, this character continues to be imagined and reimagined both by men and by women. It was most recently sort of reimagined by Patty Jenkins in the Wonder Woman film in 2017. So it's not the only character that is being reimagined for women. Captain Marvel, who started out as Shazam that we were looking at earlier, has undergone some dramatic transformations and now become Carol Danvers, a woman. So, after Shazam and there's a lawsuit, Roy Thomas and Gene Colan completely rewrite the Captain Marvel character. Instead of being Shazam, he becomes this alien Kree military officer, Captain Mar-Vell. Like many people in the 1960s, Mar-Vell is weary of war and his warmongering superiors, and instead he allies himself with Earth, the people he'd been sent to spy on. This is all in the context of what's going on in Vietnam. Carol Danvers joins his crew when her DNA is sort of fused with his in some kind of explosion in 1977 after the feminist movement, and she becomes Ms. Marvel. That Ms. being a very important title, because she's not Miss or Mrs., she's Ms. It was a term of empowerment in the 1970s for women. And in 2012, the character evolves again when Marvel Comic fuses Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel into a single character, and Carol Danvers becomes Captain Marvel, mentored by a Kree scientist who is a woman named Mar-Vell. And this is the storyline that's used in the 2019 plot of Captain Marvel. So here we've had two very different approaches. One, an evolution of a superhero who's always been a woman, and another, the evolution of a superhero who used to be male, and then is male and female partners, and now is just a woman. What are these different choices, these different decisions doing for representations of women and female characters? For activity number 4, I want you to look at the Digital Comics Museum and the Internet Archive and look responsibly. There can be disturbing images and biased content in these collections. I want you to look, though, at particularly representations of women in the golden age of comics. That's the 1930s and 40s. And compare them with representations of women in the comics now, either ones we viewed or ones that you know. What's changed? What hasn't? Respond in 3 to 5 sentences and let us know what comics you looked at, and perhaps include images that you're using to make these comparisons. How are women's bodies being represented? How is their sexuality being represented? Where do they get their powers from? Is it comparable to the males around them? What does this mean? All things to think about as you're looking at these representations and coming up with just another section of how are comics representing, reflecting, commenting on our culture.